is such a treat. Dad, this is your second appearance on the show, and I feel like I should handle it with a bit more professionalism since you are one of the best to do what you do. You have a front row ticket to the best events in sports, and we should handle this just sticking to X's and O's, but something tells me Yannis is going to mess that up.
I got a lot of questions about the little girl that Olivia was.
Yes. There's a lot to tell, Yannis. There's a lot to tell.
I can't wait. I'll just say, I've told Olivia many times, you are my favorite announcer. I'm a huge basketball fan. So, I've been watching you on TNT, listening to you on TNT for years. You call a very exciting game, and I appreciate you.
Well, you're so kind. Thank you for those wonderful words. I appreciate it. Coming from someone like you, that's very nice. Thank you.
Well, let's start with one of your great calls this weekend. Again, you do 3 games every weekend: Sunday on CBS NFL, Monday Night Football on Westwood 1, and then you rush to do a Tuesday NBA game on TNT. So any weekend you can have a long list of great calls, but one I really liked this weekend was at the Seahawks game at the end, and I've been in that stadium. It does shake. And tell me what it felt like in the booth, because your call was something, and you can fix me on this, but I thought you said, I hope the engineers feel confident in their work because this place is shaking, something like that?
That's basically what I said. And at first, I've only been in 2 stadiums that shook like that. One was the old Mile High Stadium in Denver. And when I was broadcasting the Chiefs, the Broncos would pound the Chiefs, it seems like, every time we played out there. And when that stadium was going, the old stadium, the old Mile High, it really moved. I mean, you could see it and you could definitely feel it. So I hadn't been in any kind of situation until this past weekend when the Seahawks came up with the big defensive play to seal a win and beat their arch rival, the San Francisco 49ers. And it started shaking, but at first I thought, are my feet going numb? Is something wrong with the floor? Like I couldn't. Have I lost my footing? And I looked down and I thought, am I going crazy here? And then I figured, oh my gosh, it's moving. And listen, this is not the first time that stadium has moved with a crowd. They did years ago when Marshawn Lynch had a very famous run in the playoffs against the New Orleans Saints. And there was so much movement in the stadium from the fans going berserk that it registered on the seismic measuring thing at a local geological center. So I've not seen if this registered, but it was thunderous and it was exciting.
I always wondered, how do you keep such an impartial tone in when you're calling a game? Like, I assume you have a favorite team, but that never really comes through. And that's the thing that pisses sports fans off the most when they watch a game, if they feel like an announcer is favoring one team over the other. When you call the game, I notice you're excited about anything that happens and you call it with enthusiasm. How do you separate your heart from your job when you do it?
Well, I'm a big sports fan to begin with, Yannis, and I really do not care who wins. If I had to favor a team, I like the underdog because it makes for a better story for whatever outlet I'm with, CBS or TNT or Westwood 1. So I'm always looking for an upset. I'm always looking for the underdog, perhaps, to do it. But I do not care who wins. I just want a good broadcast. So I'm rooting for our CBS team or whoever I'm with that particular broadcast. I think the fan probably comes out in me more than it should, but I'm always in wonder on how these guys do what they do at these big moments, whether it was last night in Buffalo with the Patriots and the Bills with 40-mile-an-hour winds and snow, and how they were able to survive and eventually win New England, or the game in Seattle the night before when the Seahawks pulled the big upset, as they had been kind of unraveling, and they were able to come in and beat a San Francisco team that was really playing well and had a lot of momentum. So I think I try to balance it as much as I can. I really don't have a favorite player. I really don't have a favorite team. I've done the Packers in the Super Bowl, and they were playing the Steelers, and I really didn't care. I was really selfish that day. I wanted just a good broadcast. And it was great the Packers won, but was not rooting for them. And if Roethlisberger had come up with a big throw in that game to beat the Packers, I would have been as excited as if Rodgers had done the same thing to the Steelers. So I'm just a fan, like the two of you, and like I'm sure most of the people watching. I love sports, and probably the fan comes out of me maybe a little bit more than it should, unfortunately.
For a little context on that Super Bowl too, I believe that was your first one doing the national radio broadcast.
Yes, it was for the national radio. I had done one. I had done one for CBS back in 2001 when HD television was just getting some traction, and they had two separate broadcasts. They had, I think, Greg Gumbel was our number one NFL broadcaster, and he and Phil Simms. It was down in Tampa. It was the Giants and the Baltimore Ravens Super Bowl, and they were doing regular television, regular def, and we were doing high def. We were doing HD. Now there were probably only, they thought maybe 500,000 HD TV sets in the United States, but there were millions all over the globe, and so it basically had more of an effect. Our broadcast was probably seen more in Asia and in Europe than it was in the U.S. But that was the first, and the first radio one is right, Livy. That was the first one in Dallas with the Packers and the Steelers in the 2010 season, and it was played in 2011.
And that game, just if there was any game to have some fandom in, it probably would have been that one. My dad was a Packer ball boy as a little kid. He grew up at Packer training camp. His dad constructed that team, hired that GM. He had just retired. And so, but it was, his fingerprints were all over the franchise and all over that team. So I know our family felt extremely proud. If that was going to be the Packers win, it felt like that was our Papa Boy's win. We call him Papa Boy. So the fact that you were able to remain neutral on that game is about impressive as it comes.
Yeah,
that was a great question, Yannis.
Well, I just like good plays and by stars or little known players, and a great play is a great play. Everyone says, well, how can you blow a gasket in the first quarter? But if it's a spectacular catch or a great throw or a tremendous shot, who's to say that it's not less spectacular because it happened early in the game than late in the game? Now, certainly consequences are different, but a great play is a great play, and I would just soon celebrate all the great plays.
You mentioned that Monday Night Football game, Patriots at Bills. That was a weird looking game, but if you're a hard-nosed football fan, that was probably just what you ordered, right? It was just running the ball. Mac Jones attempted 3 passes altogether. Bill Belichick was just playing chess. He was in his prime. What was your takeaway from that game?
Just the brilliance of Belichick. Just when you think that, the narrative is right, Brady made Belichick, and Brady goes and wins a Super Bowl. And Brady has had all this post-Patriot success. But think of it. Think what Belichick has gone through. Last year, they lost many key players because they opted out in the COVID season and the pandemic season.
Yeah.
And they were working with a quarterback that clearly is not even close to what he once was in Cam Newton. They had to completely restructure their offense into something that neither the offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels, or Belichick wanted to use, but there were no alternatives. They were left kind of high and dry. And then with COVID and everything else, they won 7 games. 7 wins with that team and that quarterback last year. May have been a better coaching job than what he's doing this year. Now that he's got some people back, he's gotten the reinforcements back. Guys are off the opt-out list. They're now playing on defense in particular, a couple offensive linemen. And then they take a chance in the first round. The first time Belichick has ever done this is draft a quarterback in the first round. And this was the 5th one taken. and might be the best of the five, and he was number 15
Mhm.
overall. And he is as much like Brady, like if Belichick went into a laboratory and started taking this guy's left arm and that quarterback's right arm and this quarterback's mind and this quarterback's footwork and this whatever vision, like this is what he would have, like if he was gonna recreate
Yeah.
a 22-year-old version of Tom Brady, this would be the guy. He came from Alabama, where he played for the Belichick of college football and Nick Saban. He played in big games. He played in a pro-style offense. They run their program. Livy, you know this because you've done a lot of Alabama games. They run their program like an NFL team. So this kid leaves Tuscaloosa and goes to Foxborough and doesn't blink because it's the same culture. It's the same message. And it's worked out beautifully. And the fact that he basically changed everything for that game last night. He ran the ball. The quarterback threw 3 times. It was like the perfect game plan by arguably the greatest coach that sport has ever seen.
I've noticed that. Well, everyone notices, but that your voice is such a big part of what you do. Did you get into what you got into because of your voice, or did you notice your voice was good for it after you started doing it?
You know, my voice is not the voice that I dreamt that I would have. I was dreaming of a different kind of voice, and you're kind of born with what you've got, right? I mean, you can alter it, you can change the speed, you can strengthen it, you can do all those things, but what you have is kind of what you have. And in my mind, I hear voices like Pat Summerall and Ray Scott and John Facenda and Jim Simpson and Frank Gleber, and I try to visualize. It's weird to say, but visualize those kind of voices. But when I was a younger broadcaster, like anyone who might be in their teens or early 20s, my voice was still developing, and what I sound like now is nothing like what I sounded like even when I was 50, and that didn't sound like when I was 40. Like it's just kind of matured a little bit, and probably it comes with confidence and relaxation and everything else. But I am, and Olivia would tell you this. I am big on delivery. I've always told her that when she's doing a sideline report or Yannis working with you, a so-so topic or subject or story told with a great delivery is far more captivating than a great story or great interview and you're tripping over your words and talking too fast and searching for the right word. And so I'm all about delivery. And when I get these links that these kids in college send and say, hey, what do you think of my work? Can you give me a few tips? And I listen, I can tell in about the first, 10, 15 seconds if they might have it. And there are some that are terrific because just the voice, you can teach the other stuff. You can teach preparation. You can teach, how to kind of manage and construct a game broadcast. But what you can't teach is what the good Lord blessed you with or didn't bless you with. And then I always say, if a kid doesn't have maybe the voice or delivery, I say, you know what? The great thing about our business is that you can go in about 15 different directions. Maybe you're not cut out to be on the air, but boy, you can produce, or you can direct, or you have got a great feel for lighting, or for audio, or for whatever, marketing or print. Like you can go in a million different directions. Mm-hmm. And that's the great thing about this business, or podcasts. You can go a million different ways.
Yeah, I have a horrible voice and I'm doing this.
No, you sound great. I watched now you're like family. I've watched so many of these things that you and Olivia have done together that I feel like I know the rhythm of the show and everybody you've had on and have come to really appreciate you. And I'm so thrilled she's working with a pro like you.
Oh, thank you.
Well, Yannis, you laugh every time before we start. I go 3, 2, one. In fact, now it's kind of our shtick. We do it before we start, but that's kind of my process to get my voice down where I want it. And Yannis, I have a question for you. Before you do stand up, I'm sure you have some kind of process, whether it is some visualization, something about your voice, something about the way you're standing or your body's moving. I mean, what's something you run through before you do stand up?
Yeah, just like your dad just said, if it's about delivery in what I do. So the most important thing is being in the moment, being there. So I have to make sure I'm there. I have to get out of my head. If I'm having a bad day, whatever it is, I got to leave that. I got to compartmentalize that and put it away and get in the moment. I think athletes talk about that all the time. Their best games is getting in the zone is when they're in the moment. So it's the same with comedy because you got to be in the room with those people when you're doing live comedy. So it's all about grounding myself. So I'll usually open with something that I'm just riffing on in the moment just so I can feel in the room. And then I go into the jokes that I know. But that's it right there, being in the moment. So getting that frame of mind right to be in the moment. Now, I just want to zoom right into it. Did you like Sam when you first met him? What were your first impressions?
Well, I had met Sam before he even had met Olivia. I had met him
That's
in
right.
the NCAA tournament in Los Angeles at the regional finals. So I was very familiar with the story, being from Wisconsin, and knew about his legendary folklore status in the state with his dad coaching him at a small high school. The game-winning shot, double team, throwing a three-point shot as he's falling out of bounds to win a state championship. And the state embraced him and their family. And then when he chose the University of Wisconsin, it brought it really full circle. And then to go to 2 Final Fours. So I had known his story, but had covered him before he met Olivia. And these kids, these college kids, their attention span is pretty limited, all of them. And he didn't know me from that light bulb over there. But I knew
That's
his
not
story,
true.
and that's all that really mattered. All that really mattered is that we knew his story, and we were going to tell it. Just wanted to kind of get the finishing touches on some of the questions we had asked him in our pregame meetings and interviews. But no, I liked him, and Reggie Miller, who I was doing the game with, and Dan Bonner. When he left, I think he came in with Frank Kaminsky, and the two of them came in at the same time. And they left, and I think it was Reggie turned to me and said, "This is why everybody in college sports loves the University of Wisconsin, because they go out and they get kids that really are good, solid kids." And that was my first impression of Sam. He was just a good, solid boy who was clearly raised the right way, but you can tell a coach's kid too, because a coach's kid, which Sam is, I think views the game differently. He goes home with the wins and losses because his dad is usually driving him home in high school, right? So he knows about how wins and losses affect the family, his dad's mood, because at the end of the day, he's still his dad. So a coach's kid is a different kind of kid. And I think Sam showed in those pre-Olivia meetings just the depth he had and the kind of character that he had. And so I did admire that from afar.
And then I think it was my sister who spilled the beans that I was dating this NBA player, and that is not anything I wanted my parents to find out or not hear from myself. But then fast forward hardly 6 months or so, and you were doing a Portland Trail Blazers game, Rockets at Trailblazers. So Sam was with the Rockets, and he asked if he could go to dinner with you. And that's where he asked if he could propose. And I guess I've never really heard your side of that story.
Well,
classy.
Yeah, no, I knew it was probably coming, but and I paid for the dinner, and so I had a feeling that was something that he was going to approach, and clearly he and Olivia, it was love at first sight, and they became inseparable, and they're two Wisconsin kids, basically. I mean, that's what they are. They're Midwest kids, and I couldn't be more proud that he's my son-in-law, and couldn't be more proud of the decision Olivia made to choose him as the person that she wanted to spend her life with. So, it's been great. I think because he's in the sport that he's in, he probably feels a little bit weird, maybe that I'm involved in it to a degree. Um, but we really don't talk basketball when we're together, do we, Livy? I mean,
No,
we never really.
not much.
No.
You talk more football.
Yeah, we do, because he's such a big sports fan and knows it well, and he's very well versed and he's a big Packers fan, big NFL fan, and knows sports very well. So we basically talk about everything almost sometimes, but the NBA, but we'll talk college basketball a lot. But no, he's been a blessing to our family.
I just want to say that is a classy move to go for a full dinner with the future father-in-law. I mean,
but not pick up the check.
I mean,
come on.
Everybody knows Kevin's established. Your dad is established. I mean, when I asked my father-in-law, I was so nervous. I could not even imagine sitting for a whole dinner and trying to make small talk.
No, I think have you not told this story before? I think you've told this story, right? Now, how you and your wife met? Were you sitting on a floor or something? Or I'm trying to go back now. That was early on in one of your first shows that you two did together. How you met your wife? Oh, I'm trying to think now. I'm going back.
You're probably thinking, yeah. The way I proposed was perfect. And that night I asked her dad, but it was so scary. I was so scared and so nervous that I was thinking about just leaving. I was going to change my name, maybe move to Mexico. I didn't know. I just wanted to get out of there. And then I faced my fear, and we had a moment where it was just me and him standing there. And I just there was no small talk. I was just like, hey, can I marry your daughter? Because I was so nervous. I was so nervous. I would be too scared to do a whole dinner and sit down and make small talk and think of the perfect time to bring it up. So lot of class. Shout out Sam Decker. Lot of class.
Yeah.
Well, and Yannis, you're going to have this moment yourself. Yannis is the father of a 1-year-old baby girl named Gigi. She's absolutely beautiful. Her mother is beautiful. This girl's going to be a heartbreaker. So, Dad, what's your advice as a girl dad yourself?
Well, yeah. I wouldn't be too hard on the boy for what he is, but I think you got to look at it through your daughter's eyes, and at the end of the day, all you want her to do is just think that she's made the right choice and she's beyond happy, and you can see, you'll feel the happiness in your daughters. We've got 2 of our 3 daughters are married, and you can feel what it is. I mean, when it's right, and maybe when it's wrong too. So, but Sam that was a pretty easy one, actually. That was a layup for me.
But what about high school? Go back further before there's a future husband involved. Just dad advice.
Liv, remember now, the problem in high school with you was that you were grounded more times than you were free. So
I was.
You really didn't get out that much in high school because your mom.
Oh, but when I did, look out.
So she was a little bit.
There was a reason I was grounded all the time.
Oh my gosh. She was a piece of work, man. She was just.
But it goes back further than that. Kindergarten, 3rd grade. You had a lot of calls from the principal's office.
Yeah. The thing is that you try to get mad at Olivia, and we never. I don't think we've ever raised our voice at any of our 4 kids, and you try to discipline her, but then she kind of look down and appear to be maybe sulking or even maybe close to tears, and then you'd kind of be done saying what you had to say in terms of being, involved in a reprimand, and all of a sudden she kind of turned her head like this and kind of look and then put that little devilish grin on those, and I go, oh my God! I mean, how can you get? And she's the baby, so it makes it triply hard to hold her. But man, if she was mad at us, she held a grudge.
I still do. I hold a grudge.
Yeah, she would go, Liv, you want to go get a milkshake? No. Liv, you want to watch their show? No. We sing songs? No. I said, all right. And we would do this thing where we would say our prayers at night, and we'd sing these little songs about her. And when she was mad at us, she would not let us sing the song. She would like go on, like look the other way, and try to cordon herself off. And it was so she was a tough one, boy. She was tough, but no, I'm embellishing, but she was terrific. She was a wonderful, wonderful daughter, and she's continues to make us proud every day.
And it sounds like you're glad that she grew up.
Well, there are moments that I really, I always told her when she was little, I said, I wish I could freeze you right now at
Yeah,
this age,
you always
whether she
said
was
that.
5 or 6 or 8 or 10. I just, I said that to all of our daughters. I said, I wish, I wish I could just freeze you at that age, because you can't even imagine as a dad anything better than when they're just those little girls and they look up at you and they respect you so much, and they think you are the king, and that's a nice position to be in for a dad of a daughter. So I always enjoyed that
Oh,
time.
well, I can tell you all three of your daughters still do that. So you never lost that. Let's get back to NFL talk, boys. Let's stop messing around
Okay.
here. Dad, you mentioned earlier just about Tom Brady. You said Mac Jones is the 22-year-old version of Tom Brady. Let's talk about the 44-year-old version and what he's doing this season. And now the Buccaneers are sitting at 9-3, primed and ready to possibly make another Super Bowl run. What are you liking about the Buccaneers at this point of the season?
Well, what I'm liking about it is what they did a year ago. Remember, a year ago they were 7-5 and they went to their bye, and there was a problem, a
Yeah.
disconnect between what Brady wanted to do and what Bruce Arians and the offense, Byron Leftwich as their coordinator, and how they just were not connected. They were not in sync, and it showed. Brady was thinking left, and they were thinking right. He was thinking blue, they were thinking red. Like there was just no they could not get on the same page, and their record reflected that. So they used that bye week to kind of rectify all those problems. And from that point on, they won 8 straight, including the Super Bowl. They got everything in order. They got their house in order, and then they just tore right through the rest of the NFL schedule, through the playoffs, and to the Super Bowl and a win. So a lot of the heavy lifting was last year. Now, as with every defending champion, it's trying to get yourself in the same mindset as you were a year ago when you were hungry and everything was new and you were winning, and here's Brady and all like this stuff is coming together, and you reach your goal. And to make that happen again is sometimes doubly hard. The climb sometimes in anything in life is sometimes not as difficult as maintaining once you get there and maintaining that level of excellence. And that's what they've kind of learned right now, that they've got the target on their back. They're everybody's biggest game. He is the GOAT. He's 7-time champion, been to 10 Super Bowls. I don't know that our lives will ever see anybody like him in pro football. So, he's got everybody shooting for him every Sunday, every defense. So there's just a lot that they've got to deal with. But now that we're in post-Thanksgiving December football, this is when guys like Brady and the Buccaneers become, what they've were and have aimed for, and now probably realizing when the stakes are their highest. And he might be the MVP right now. He's playing that well. He might be the MVP. And wouldn't that be something at 44 that he could possibly win it again? But he just finds ways to motivate. And I think maybe at the core of it all is that he loves to play football. Like he loves. Some guys play it because they're good at it. Some guys play it because it brings them riches. He plays it because he really loves football, and that's got to be one of the biggest reasons you play to your 44 and still go through everything that he's got to go through, hauling himself out of bed every morning, feeling every hit from the previous game, getting it. I'm certain it takes him every single day of every week leading up to that Sunday or whenever they play game to get his body right. It probably takes all 6 days between one game and the other so that he feels like, all right, physically, and we know he's in great shape, but I'll guarantee you at that age, with what he goes through, he feels that Monday and Tuesday gets, a little bit better every day. But that's one of the more underappreciated part of being a pro athlete. It takes a whole week to get your body back, to get back on that field for the next game.
You have a front row seat, and you're engaged in the games that you call. What players that you've called really wow you, where you're watching something that really just, blows your mind, like a Steph Curry, Michael Jordan, Barry Sanders, Aaron Rodgers throwing dimes when he's on the run? Like, are there some players that you've watched that really like almost take you out of your job and make you a fan because you cannot believe what you're watching over the years?
When I'm doing the broadcast in the NFL, because we're so far away from the field, I don't think you get the real appreciation for what these guys do. It's only when I'm watching at home as a fan and I watch, the flick of the wrist by Rodgers, and he is a generational talent at quarterback. That arm is an arm. Even Mahomes, and we're seeing it kind of now, like Mahomes has got a great arm. And I originally had thought he was going to be Rodgers 2.0. But Rodgers is a singular talent that we have not seen in this league, that arm talent ever. I mean, not Unitas, not Montana. I mean, go right on down the line of all the greats, Hall of Famers, even Brady, Manning, Breeze, like all these guys. No one has ever had, Elway, no one has ever had an arm and the ability to do with the football what Rodgers does. He is a singular generational talent. In basketball, because we are so close, you do begin to appreciate the players. And for me, clearly, the most inspiring, awe-inducing was Michael Jordan. I called basically every year of his career. And when he would take the ball up court by you, and we are at midcourt and close enough that if I leaned over the table, you could almost grab his jersey. It was almost as if his feet were never touching the court. Like his footwork was just so elegant, and the way he maneuvered and used just little twitches to get free or to glide down court. And it was like he was floating. And LeBron doesn't have that. LeBron is like a tank, but with ballet moves and, an acrobatic feel. Jordan, to me, was the greatest player. Kobe had a lot of those same traits. LeBron is a completely different kind of guy. But watching Jordan, to me, was like, I'll retire someday, and this question may get asked, when I'm an old man, and I would say that Jordan probably it has been the most impressive to watch play. He was, the guys now, it's just a different kind of professional athlete. It's a lot of self-congratulations. It's a lot of theatrics. Jordan did none of that. Like, Jordan did none of it. All he did was dunk or shoot or win, and he just kind of let that speak for it. Now, he may look out and smile and, kind of give a little nod, just like stuff like you and I might do. But Jordan, every day that goes by, and watching the superstars we have now and how they react to success and how Jordan reacted to success, kind of defines it even more in my mind, that I feel real lucky that I was able to call Michael Jordan, basketball games for as long as I did. He was unbelievable, like indescribable is what he was, indescribable.
I've got to ask for our final question. You hold the record for most consecutive Super Bowls called, which is amazing. So this year's Super Bowl, we already kind of asked you about Tampa Bay and New England, and some hot teams are out there. Who would you have to guess? Today it's December 7th. Who would you guess you're going to be calling on February 13th?
Well, I just saw, Livy, the Patriots, as we know, last night, and I just think they're the most complete team in the AFC. Lamar Jackson has kind of taken a turn. The Bengals are struggling a bit. The Chargers are too inconsistent. Pittsburgh 6-5-1. I'm not seeing Buffalo clearly is groping right now. They are searching, and they're 7-5, and now they're not. They were number 5 last night, I think, going in, and now they're down to 7th in the AFC, barely holding on. I don't know what's wrong with them. They lost Tre'Davious White, who is a All-Pro cornerback, and that's a killer in their secondary. He closed off a quarter of the field for opposing offenses, so that it was like they were playing with one arm tied behind their back. I mean, he was that good. So I'm going to go New England because I think they're the most complete team, and they've got clearly the best coach. Even Kansas City has shown that Mahomes has not been what he was. Their offense, for whatever reason, is out of sync, and we're late now in the season. And if it's not starting to show some fingerprints right now of what they're going to be, and they really haven't, they're winning, but they're winning ugly and kind of awkwardly. I don't know really what to make of the Chiefs, but I love New England, and I'm going to go with Green Bay. I think they're the most motivated, and I just think Rodgers is playing with a real goal. I think he is a guy. Clearly, we have found out that he is a player who sees a big world around him and thinks about legacy and all these different things. He's a deep thinker, and he can't help but think at 38 or 39, 38, I think he just turned 38. He can't help but think about what his legacy is. And right now, in a singular way, it's great because he's won 3 MVPs, but he's only been to 1 Super Bowl. And the greats go to more than 1 Super Bowl. So I think he is in a frame of mind of legacy, of putting an impact on it. And I also predict that he'll re-sign with Green Bay, and he's going to finish out the greatest quarterback for an organization that has had some of the greatest quarterbacks that have ever played.
Yannis, don't make a vaccine joke. Don't do it.
I wasn't going to do it.
Don't do it, Yannis.
I won't do it, Livy. Don't worry, Livy. I'm not going to do it, little Livy.
Okay.
Now I know what to call you from now on.
That's Kevin Harlan.
Livy!
Ow. Well, that's Kevin Harlan. You cannot follow him on Twitter because he hates social media, but you can find him every Sunday on CBS, Monday Night Football on Westwood 1, and NBA on TNT. Dad, thank you again. It's great to see your face before I catch this flight to Istanbul.
I know it. Good luck, sweetie. We'll talk afterwards. Giannis, what a pleasure to be on with you. I watch your show every week, your podcast, and I love it. And you guys do a great job. There's wonderful chemistry, and it really is a joy to listen to. And
thank you.
Thanks for being on.
Honor to have you on. Thank you for doing it. Really appreciate it.